Next up, we're going to talk with Adina Miles, aka Flatbush Girl, about the power of women in the Jewish Orthodox community. And later, a new film about another Brooklyn woman who's broken a few barriers, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. All media bring into sharp relief the divisions between tradition and modernity. But social media is a special animal in this way. Plastering your face and your thoughts all over the internet, there's just no precedent. So let's face it, it makes the more traditional among us a bit uncomfortable. Nowhere is this more true than in the traditionally cloistered Orthodox Jewish communities of Brooklyn, especially when it's a woman doing the plastering. Our next guest is trying to break down some of these barriers. Under the moniker Flatbush Girl, she's a social media sensation among Orthodox Jews. And she also runs a successful consulting firm, Flatbush Media. Right now, we're excited to have her here in the studio in person. Welcome Adina Miles to 112VK.
Hey, what's up? How are you?
I'm fantastic, Adina. You come in here so bright and shiny and light up my whole studio, and I'm really happy about that.
I'm so glad I can do that for you.
For those who aren't following you, who are obviously missing out, what can they expect to find on your social feed, on your Instagram, in your stories? Like, what is Flatbush Girl out in the city doing?
Okay, so I know this sounds a little funny, but the way I create and communicate with my audience is in a very haphazard, spontaneous way. Yeah. It's not like we sit there and storyboard and reverse engineer what we're going to be putting out for the audience, right, and that I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. But I guess like the spectrum of it, the broad spectrum of it, would be me trying to create social commentary that can resonate through humor. Because humor is a soft way to sprinkle in these nonconformist messages and really empower young girls. That is my main target. The girls who are still in elementary school, who are being told amazing messages about, you know, their sense of independence and their abilities and their strengths, but the teachers are not going all in.
Right.
There's always like that fake ceiling, and I'm trying to break the ceiling so that they know, like, your teachers are saying your ceiling is here, your ceiling is much higher than that.
Yes, absolutely. I like that. And it sounds to me like if people come to your social feed, there is something that they can expect, and that's a level of authenticity and a level of encouragement and maybe even empowerment a little bit.
I think so. I think that they'll also see someone who's really not afraid of hate. I get a lot of hate. I get a lot of DMs, private messages from anonymous names, sometimes not anonymous. I get emails. I've even gotten phone calls. People trying to scare me into, you know, stopping to speak my truth. And really my goal is not as extreme as they believe it is. My goal is not to shatter the system. My goal is not to have people like, you know, just say like, laissez-faire, we're not doing any of this. I think that there is a very important role in tradition, in the family unit, and in, you know, in the culture, in our tribe. I think those things are beautiful. It's just where it limits girls from really reaching their potential and understanding their power as females rather than their weaknesses as females.
Do you find that some of what comes back at you is from the very people who you're like, you have to understand, we were girls. We know how hard it was to be girls growing up and wanting to, you know, work in certain industries and believe in ourselves certain ways. It's like, how come you can't really make the connection between what I'm trying to do here and your experience?
I definitely hear you. I think there's a certain, I want to say bitterness that comes from the women who see me doing what I do and thinking to themselves like, but I couldn't do that, so how come you're allowed to? And yeah, I would say most of the backlash is from females, and even if it's not coming from a place of bitterness, it does come from a place where they are trying to protect the tribe.
But there has to be some place we can meet in the middle, and I think you're actually creating that space through your channel. I want to switch a little bit from Flatbush Girl into Flatbush Media. Give me a description about what you do at Flatbush Media.
So I kind of help bring brands that are not familiar with social media into the digital age. I have the sensitivities in place to understand from their perspective, like the kind of ways they want to, portray themselves on social media, because it is a tricky place for a Jewish brand to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I have that sensitivity, but at the same time, I have the ability to know how to marry the two.
Do you find that Flatbush Girl in any way has gotten in the way of Flatbush Media? Because Flatbush Girl was used to build Flatbush Media, you know, and so people could understand exactly what you could do, which is phenomenal. Do some people go the other way because of Flatbush
Definitely. Girl? I've had a lot of brands who say, listen, we see what you can do. We know you have the mind of someone we want to work with, but we don't want you. We don't want that you. In the beginning, initially, this was hard for me. It was hard for me not to get defensive and protective over myself and feel personally insulted.
Right.
But as the months have progressed, and it's really a consulting firm in its infancy. It's really almost only a year old.
Right.
And we've gone from 2 clients to 12 clients, which was really great. But over those months, I've been able to build the muscle where I understand they're just operating out of fear, and that kind of engenders sympathy for me rather than feeling defensive. Right.
What happens when companies leave?
It's hard to hear from a company words like, and I did a post about this recently where this month I had 2 clients leave me who told me that they love my work. They love the work ethic, they love the communication, they love the customer service, and they're happy with the metrics. But they are afraid of what people will say about them if they continue to work with me. Now, let's say they'll have one anonymous phone call from someone saying, I'm not going to shop in your store anymore if you keep using Flatbush Girl. And they go, oh, no, we can't have this. And they preemptively prepare themselves for some sort of backlash, which I personally think would never happen.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I'm like, what would the backlash be about? I got to tell you, listen, now I've just recently become familiar with Flatbush Girl. But if somebody come down my street with some sort of anti-Flatbush Girl poster, I would probably be like, you need bigger problems. You need much bigger problems.
But in addition to having the same perspective as you, you have way bigger problems to worry about.
Come on.
I also would venture to say that if they had the muscle for it, they don't realize that kind of controversy, that fake controversy, would be amazing for their brand.
I wasn't going to say it, but here we are. Moving forward, what are your big dreams, big goals for Flatbush Girl and for Flatbush Media?
I really don't have a long-term goal other than just something having to do with empowering young girls and somehow growing my business. But other than that, the nuances, the between the lines, all those things, I really just allow it to change and evolve naturally day to day. For me, it's like art. For me, it really is like, waking up and seeing what's on the canvas and saying like, oh, now I see it needs that brush stroke, and being willing to be so nimble.
Because things come into your life because you're open to them sometimes. And you don't miss them. You see them because you're open to them. When you close yourself off, you don't know when they're coming, but when you're open, anything can come. Anything can happen, and you sort of build your dream on the way up. What you are is an effective communicator and a really good messenger, and you have good timing. And good timing is requisite for good humor. So when you land, girl. It's been fantastic having the opportunity to talk with you today.
Thank you so much.
I cannot wait to see what continues to happen in your life, because I've got a good feeling.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure.